Hey there, I'm Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. This will be a spoiler-free review, and I will also be doing a book talk after this where I spill all the spoilers. So this video is made for the people who haven't read the book yet, don't want any spoilers, but you kind of want to get the idea of what it's about and certain things in the book to see if you'll like it, like the negatives, the positives, without any spoilery context. I do hope you'll forgive me for not holding this chunky book up the entire way through this. I've got tiny little hands and this book is heavy. My copy is the US hardcover of this book and it is 799 pages long, so she's thick. So I do hope you'll forgive me for putting this down. I also hope you forgive me if I ever say Crescent City when I mean House of Earth and Blood. They just made the Crescent City title so giant that it became ingrained that that was the title of the book, and it's not. The title of the book is House of Earth and Blood, and I don't know why, but in my head it will always be Crescent City. So this story takes place in Lunathian, which is a city that is host to a variety of different magical creatures. You have humans, fae, vampires, shifters, angels, sprites. There's so many different fantasy creatures and they're all living in one place. And this world has these magical elements combined with modern technology. So that includes things like guns, warships, phones, televisions, that sort of thing. So it is very different feeling from Sarah J Maas's other books in the sense that they are very much fantasy, whereas this one feels like more urban fantasy. Now this world has a very steep hierarchical system, and part of that does come from a previous rebellion which placed certain groups of people at the bottom of this structure. There are certain people who are slaves. Then just above that on the hierarchical scale you have humans and half-humans, and then all manners of magical creatures. And at the top you have the Asteri, which are the ruling class, and they are angels. So the main character we follow is Bryce Quinlan, who is a half-human, half-fae character. She has very little magical ability and is very vulnerable in comparison to a lot of the other characters that we will see. She has a roommate called Danica Fendir, who is a very powerful wolf shifter, and she and her circle of friends are very much party people. They go out to clubs, they dance, they drink, they dress however they want to dress, and they do whatever they want to do. Now within the first 50 pages of this book there is a murder that happens. I won't say who because no spoilers, but it kind of defines the trajectory of the rest of the book. Because the murder happens in a really gruesome way, when things start to happen again 2 years later, the characters are trying to find out who the murderer is to try and stop them from doing it some more. Now the start of this book is very info dumpy. You get a lot of information very quickly, and it's like every time you're introduced to a character you get like a paragraph of things that you should know about them. It's like, this is the person, this is their title, this is how powerful they are, and other information that you should probably know just because they have appeared. So I do think that some of that could have been integrated better into the plot, and I think it is why a lot of people struggle when they first read this book. For the first 100 pages, there's so much information that is coming at you that if you're not sort of prepared for that, then it's a little bit hard to read. But once you get past part 1, which ended in my copy on page 94, it becomes a much more digestible read because the story stops introducing you to like 1,000 characters and you follow like a core couple of characters. You follow Bryce, who I've already introduced, Hunt, who is known as the Umbra Mortis / the Angel of Death. He is a slave and he is tasked with trying to find out who this murderer is. And you also follow Rune Dannon, who is the Crown Prince of the Valbaran Fae. I'm sure you'll probably have heard that audio on TikTok if you're anywhere near any Sarah J Maas TikToks. So part 2 of this book does follow a sort of very linear structure about trying to find out who the murderer is. But I would say if you're not a big fan of that sort of detective story, then do hold out, because part 3 and 4, it all goes a bit wild. Part 4 especially is one heck of a ride. And I won't say anything about them because it's spoilers here, there and everywhere, but it's very impactful and it's very much worth slogging through the first 2 sections, I would say. And I don't mean slogging through because it was entertaining, but I think the pacing is a little bit off. In the sense the first part is very much packed full of all of this stuff and information. Part 2 is slowed down almost a little bit too much. I would say you could probably cut out about 100 pages from part 2 and it would still be just as good. But then part 3 and 4 are just so good that it is really worth pushing through if you're struggling at any point in that. So one thing that I really enjoyed about this book is Bryce Quinlan. She is a fantastic character, and one of the things that I loved about her was her confidence. Now she's been through a very difficult time, and like a lot of the other Sarah J Maas leading female characters, she's got some trauma. She's hanging on to that baggage and she's not feeling great about her life for a lot of it. But this woman has so much confidence. She's routinely slut-shamed by most people that meet her, and she just doesn't care. She just brushes it right off, and she has some great comebacks. Now, when it comes to the later half of the book, Bryce's badassery is fantastic. I enjoyed something so much, and I can't say the things that I enjoyed without spoiling anything, so you'll just have to read it to find out exactly how badass Bryce Quinlan is. But she is without a doubt the character that I cared about the most in this series, and I think perhaps the only character that I'm seriously attached to, aside from Syrinx, who is her chimera pet, who is just really cute and I love him. Also, side note, there are messenger otters that wear like these little yellow vests and deliver messages, and they are adorable. Even every time Bryce sees them, she squeals because they are so adorable. And I'm like, yeah, that would be me too, because, oh, adorable. Another thing that I really enjoyed about this book is just the entire conclusion. The entire conclusion made this book for me. For a large portion of this book, I was going to rate it 4 out of 5 stars because I didn't really connect with it in specific ways. And then by the time like the last part of the book happened, I was all in. I was crying floods of tears. I was like, oh my god, this is so good, and I couldn't stop reading. And honestly, I recommend that you don't stop reading in that last like 200, 150 pages of the book. Just prepare, sit down, read that whole thing together because it's so good. But that does bring me into something that I really didn't like about this book, and I think that I have boiled down the thing I don't like about this book to the stakes. Because in this world there is a thing called the drop, and if you make this drop into your power, you can become immortal as long as you've found your way out of it. And then pretty much nothing can really harm you unless you're like utterly incinerated or damaged beyond repair, but like you can lose limbs and they'll grow back. So I think that that really messed with the stakes, and it kind of made me not as worried about certain characters. I still had the fear for Bryce though, because she hadn't made the drop, so she's still vulnerable as a character, and I think perhaps that's why I got more attached to her than other characters. Like anyone who has made the drop, they're just gonna heal, so I'm like, well, kind of ruins any sort of fear that I may have, any worry that I have for you, because you're probably not going to get incinerated. Anything that happens to you, you'll probably just heal and get better. So it kind of ruined the stakes for me. And I think that is why the latter half of the book is so good, because it introduces a more powerful force, and it also puts more vulnerable people in the forefront, so you actually worry about their safety. And I found that really refreshing, because I'd spent so much of the book going, well, not gonna die, so you'll probably be fine. And that was probably my chief problem with this book, because I definitely cared more when there were real stakes to be found. All of my other thoughts around this book are spoilery, so I'm gonna leave this review here and just say that I think that this book is for you if you enjoy Sarah J Maas's writing, if you don't mind that there are pacing issues within the book because it goes kind of like fast, slow, fast, and if you're looking for kind of a detective story mixed with more of a fantasy things. And I think if you enjoy like badass women, then you're going to enjoy this book. There are some strong male characters in this book. I just personally didn't feel as connected with them, so I haven't really talked about them in this review. I'm sure that a lot of other people have talked about them in their reviews, and you can go and enjoy that. But I just love Bryce, so this review has mainly been about her. So if you enjoyed this review, then please let me know. I'd love to know if it's made you want to read the book a bit more, or if there's anything that I said that made you not want to read the book. That's also equally good to know. I do recommend it. I did rate it 5 out of 5 stars in the end. And if you do want to know my spoilery thoughts, then come check out my book talk. But if you made it this far into the video and don't have anything to say but just want to let me know that you're here, then please leave me a star emoji. I would love that. And if you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!